Is it really possible to hack reality? Is it really possible to collapse timelines? What's the difference between somebody who hustles for decades, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, to finally achieve success, and somebody else that is able to, in a few months' time or in just a few years, be able to see drastic changes in their lives? This is what we're going to talk about today, how to hack reality. Because if you've been following this channel, you understand that reality is not solid. Reality is fluid. As a quick reminder, you only see 0.0035% of the entirety of the electromagnetic spectrum, meaning that your eyes really and truly send tiny fractions of the entirety of the signals in real life to your brain. Meaning that your brain interprets and base itself. Meaning that your brain basically analyzes what your eyes sends it as a signal and only base itself on a tiny fractions of all the signals that comprise reality. Okay? So it's important to understand that you don't want to get fooled by the physical world or your physical bodily limitations. This is why this channel is dedicated to give you the esoteric knowledge of the unseen forces of success. The difference between somebody who has access to regular knowledge and somebody who has access to esoteric knowledge, meaning the knowledge for the initiated, is going to naturally retranslate in their results and circumstances in every single aspect of their lives. And I see too many coaches, too many mentors, too many people online out there that either one, focus on spirituality or faith or God, but in very vague terms without any practical applications, or you have the typical hustle culture that basically leads to burnout and people being unhappy. Because if you see all these gurus that preach only discipline, only hard work, without faith, without understanding the unseen forces of success, you can tell in their eyes that they're miserable and depressed, and they only base their self-worth on the money that they're making or the physical success that they have. And I see a true lack in this sphere of practical spirituality. Because at the end of the day, success without practical spirituality is the recipe for a hollow reality. Okay? So let's get started. Today we're going to talk about how to hack reality, collapse timelines by using 4 quantum mechanisms that is extremely important, that have been kept hidden since decades or since millennium in ancient knowledge and in secret society. Okay? So let's get started. The reality of the game is that you don't need necessarily to wait decades to see some kind of success in your life. If you need to wait decades, it's because you're simply focusing on one aspect of the 4 quantum mechanisms. And this aspect is action. Now, hold on. This is not some woo-woo spirituality bullshit manifestation type of channel. This is really practical. At the end of the day, we don't want to give you just some feel-good advice or feel-good motivation. What we want to do is give you the true practical information, esoteric practical information that has been passed since millennium from secret societies to secret societies and secret families that they use for their success. So most people focus on action, right? The problem is action without the correct level of frequency and the correct level of energy is not going to lead anywhere. It's going to lead to burnout. Because at the end of the day, we as human beings are comprised of 99.999% energy. You watching this right now, you're not an entity of flesh. You're not just a body, okay? You are a walking energy field. You are a walking energy field. You're comprised of atoms. You're comprised of electrons. You're comprised of wave potentials. You're comprised of vibration, which is energy in motion. Okay? So it's important to understand that this universe, if you look at the subatomic level, this universe in of itself is filled with energy. So you are part of this universe, and you're not an exception. You are made of 99% energy, which is why, for instance, when you walk into a room and somebody has a bad vibe, you can instantly feel it. When you are in a room and somebody with a bad vibe enters the room, you can feel it as well, because you are an energy sensor, because you yourself, you are just an energy field. Please note this down. It's going to make a whole lot of difference in every single aspect of your life. All my clients that I've helped in health, wealth, relationships, markets, when they understand this clear concept that they are an energy field, everything starts to make sense and everything starts to naturally unfold. Okay? And they start to attract success and collapse timelines in their lives very, very quickly. Okay? So it's important for you to understand that you are an energy field. You are an energy field. Which is why when another energy field comes into your contact and the person with a low energy field or a lower vibration enters in contact with you, you can feel it. You don't like their vibe. Why do you think people say, I don't like his vibe, or I like his vibe? Because it means either their vibration is off compared to their own vibration, or superior or inferior to their own vibration. Okay? Extremely important. Now, why did I do this little prelude and introduction about energy? Simply because people tend to focus too much on action without frequency, without energy behind it. And the problem is, when you start to focus purely on action, not only one, is it misguided, but two, it lacks the correct energy to supercharge that action to send ripple effects into the universe. Okay? We can all agree that karma is real, right? When you do some bad stuff and you think negatively, bad stuff tends to happen. The reason why psychopaths and serial killers are able to escape the police, or they're not getting in the bad karma, is because they do not feel like they're doing something wrong. Usually a psychopath, or usually a serial killer with a lot of empathy for his victim, for instance, is going to attract a lot of bad karma, because he's going to feel like he's doing something wrong. Which is why serial killers tend to have, that escape the police for a long period of time, tend to have a certain degree of psychopathy, meaning that they are not feeling any type of emotions, because that prevents them from having the bad karma coming to them. Because at the end of the day, the universe is a mirror. Please note it down. This is a recurring theme, but it's extremely important. The universe is two things. The universe is a mirror plus a magnifier. Okay? What does it mean? It means if you have bad emotions on a daily, well, it's going to get it back to you. Okay? And if you really consistently have that bad emotion, it's going to come much more into your life. Which is why we call the negative downward spiral, or the positive upward spiral. Because the universe is pure energy. God, it's pure energy. I don't have a lot of battery left. It's pure energy. And whenever you feel bad, it's going to make you feel worse. It's going to give you reasons to feel bad and give you reasons to feel worse. Which is why, since the dawn of human time, all the great philosophers, all the great psychiatrists, psychologists, all the great esoteric knowledge initiated, understand that your thoughts, your emotions, and your being in of itself needs to be congruent. Okay? You need to be congruent. You need to feel a certain way, you need to think a certain way, and you need to act a certain way. So, for you to start collapsing timelines, instead of waiting fucking decades, what you want to do is focus on 4 things. First, you want to give a signal to the universe that you are indeed wanting to attract a certain desired reality. So first we want to signal, okay? We want to give a signal. Then, because everything in this universe already exists, because infinity, everything is contained in infinity, and this universe is infinite, okay? I'm not gonna get into too many dimensions of reality here, but basically everything is contained into infinity. Whatever you create in your life is actually already created in the potential field. I'll do a video about the observer effect, how your attention collapses vibrations into particles, meaning that basically by you focusing and sending a signal focusing onto a certain image, onto a certain potentiality, collapses it into particles, making it a first degree of probability, a first degree of physicality basically. So what we want to do is we want to send a signal to the field, the potential probability field. And how do we do that? We do that with our thoughts. Calm down. This is not going to be just like some basic manifestation stuff. It's going to be very, very practical. And once you have this alignment, because everybody's speaking about alignment, right? Everybody's like, oh, you need to be aligned. What does it actually mean to be aligned? I'm going to tell you exactly in this video how to be aligned. And if you follow this and you are aligned on a consistent period of time, progressively the timeline is going to collapse. Something that would take somebody 10 years, 20 years is going to progressively compress until you have it in the now. So we want to send the signal. Then, because everything in this reality already exists, we don't create anything. We actually attract stuff, okay? And I know for people who are ego-driven and who are very much identified with their accomplishments, their competence, their skills stacking, their knowledge, etc., it's something that is hard to accept because the ego tends to want to own or appropriate itself what it has accomplished. But the reality of the game is that already in the infinity already exists, and it's a matter of you attracting that probability into the now, into your own third dimensional realm, basically. So what we want to do is basically have a magnet to attract what already exists as a potentiality into the now. And how do we do that? Well, your magnets, your strongest magnet is going to be your heart. Your heart is the magnet, your brain is the signal. So basically, your emotions, okay? Now, this is where most of you who are very action-driven usually tend to leave the video because you are not patient. You don't understand that the reason you've been struggling for years is because you only have focused on one part of those four quantum mechanism. Action in of it itself, without the correct level of frequency, is just banging your head against the wall without you producing any results. Which is why Einstein said doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, is called insanity. So, now we have a signal. We basically told the universe what we want. Then we have a magnet reeling in, right, progressively over time. How we're going to collect the timeline, I'm going to tell you. So now, how do we make sure that we actually cement this and we lock it in? Well, most people, they stop there. They stop with the thoughts and the emotions. And they don't have what we call the lock-in, basically, making sure that it comes, making sure that the waiter, the universe as a waiter, comes with the food. This is basically, if you will, your signal is you pointing at the menu at the restaurant, and the magnet is telling the waiter what you want. Now, how do we make sure that the waiter comes back with what we want? Well, it's going to be what we call the lock-in. And the lock-in, my friend, is what most of this modern society lacks, which is belief and faith. Another word of saying conviction. Oops, sorry. Conviction. The problem with most people is that not only one, do they lack self-confidence, two, they lack conviction in their abilities, and they don't trust the universe. And remember, the universe is a mirror. So if you don't trust the universe, how the fuck is he going to trust you? Or it's going to trust you? It won't. Okay? Because the universe is a mirror. The universe really and truly reflects your subconscious mind. It reflects your inner state, your thoughts, your emotions, and the degree of conviction that you hold. So that's the lock-in. Meaning, first you need to think about what you want in life. You need to feel as if you already have it. Then you need to have faith on a consistent period of time that it's coming to you or that you already have it. That's even better. But I'm saying coming to you because I know some of you are new to this thing and it's sometimes hard when you go from unconfident or, this new metaphysical knowledge, esoteric knowledge, to really just dive into it. But be convinced that it works. And then last but not least, the acceleration. Because the acceleration comes last, guys. I want you to see this as a car. The signal is kind of like, okay, the model of the car that you want. The magnet is kind of like, okay, what is the engine? Okay, the engine of your car. Is it a V8? Is it a V6 or not even that, right? The lock-in is the fuel. So the gasoline, right? All of that. And last but not least, the acceleration is actions. And you see how this is a big problem. Most people focus on the action. Not only one, do they not take the correct action, but even if they did, it's like pushing the pedal and accelerating without the correct fuel, without the correct engine, and without the correct car. So it doesn't work. Actions comes last. And I know it sounds counterintuitive, but I'm telling you, if you have reprogrammed your subconscious mind with the correct signal, the correct thoughts, you use the correct magnets, you use your correct emotions, and you lock it in on a consistent period of time with your strong belief, your strong faith, and your strong conviction. This, my friend, this actually was like acceleration, but you get the point, right? Plus acceleration. This is actions. Okay, the correct actions, but they come last. So this is how you collapse the timeline. First, you send out the correct signal. So in this example, it would be, let's say, you clearly visualize your desired reality. How many millions, how many M's do you want in the bank account? What is the dream income with your business? And what are, let's say, another signal that you want to end. Usually, I would recommend, guys, maximum 3 signals until achievement, okay? Because at the end of the day, your conscious mind can only remember 4 things at once on the short term, and it's easier for you to put more energy on a few things that you focus on rather than spread your energy, spread your attention, spread your signals across many different things. Okay, the universe responds better to clarity and simplicity. So I would recommend three projects, basically, maximum 3 projects, max. So it could be your income. Let's say, for instance, you want to make 100 grand per month with your business. Let's say you want to have 1 M in the bank account, in the bank. Of course, like, I don't recommend having M's in the bank, right? Obviously you want to reinvest and stuff like that, but let's say that's just an arbitrary number. And then let's say, for instance, you want to reach a certain you want to visualize a certain villa. For instance, a certain villa or car, let's say. Only 3, okay? I would focus first on that. Until you build that muscle, don't spread yourself too thin. So the signal would be, let's say, 100K per month. The magnet would be feeling the emotions as if already done. Okay? Why is that so important? Because the magnet is emotions. Okay? It's important for you to feel as if this is already done. By the law of reversibility, the law of reversibility states, in the universe, states that you will feel a certain way when you get an item. But as the universe is a mirror, law of reversibility, you will get an item when you feel a certain way, right? Because that item, it is on a certain vibration, right? That is required for you to have. If you have this correct vibration, on the correct frequency, on the correct wavelength, right? This is your item that you desire, let's say your car, for instance, or an income, or whatever it is. This is the emotion that you're gonna have. Instead of waiting for you to have that, to get the emotions, start producing the emotions that you will get when you have this. And this is how you position yourself on the right frequency, on the right wavelength for you to magnetize that desired reality. Now that you've sent a signal, you know you're very clear on what you want, and you're feeling the emotions. So in this case, what would the emotions be? The emotions would be feeling of security, pride, freedom, accomplishment, love, because you're obviously, if you're following my channel, like energy attracts like energy, right? So I only attract people who are like me. Maybe, for instance, having family values, loving, caring, ambitious. So usually what you're going to do with your 100K per month, of course, after investments and stuff like that, maybe you're going to donate to charity. Maybe you're going to help your family out. So all of this is going to help you feel more love, okay? Because helping your family out, giving to charity, helping other people is you giving love to the universe. And therefore the universe is going to give you love. And therefore you're going to have more love in your life, okay? So 100K, feeling the emotions, the lock-in, faith, conviction that it's already done. And I know it sounds like a bit schizophrenic, right? But that's the reality of the game. You need to understand that you are not your identity. You can embody any type of identity. Right now, you may feel, okay, I'm insecure, I'm not making as much money as I want. But the thing is, and I'll do another YouTube video about the observer effect and how your identity literally creates your reality. It's important for you to have the conviction of the person who already has these emotions, the person who already has created this, okay? Identity. The conviction of the corresponding identity. I'm telling you, as if it's already done. Because it's good to, okay, I want this, visualize, knowing exactly, feeling the emotions a bit, and then the other day you don't feel the emotions and you're not convinced actually, you have doubts and stuff like that. Now, it's important to understand that of course you're going to have doubts in your journey, right? Ups and downs, the pendulum swing. Watch the previous video about the pendulums where I speak about the pendulums and the law of rhythm and the law of ups and downs. But you want to lock it as much as possible. And from there, once you have the conviction of already having it, the emotions of already having it, the clear picture of what you want, then you take the actions. And the actions will be completely different because instead of taking actions towards the goal, you're going to take actions from the goal. And why is this so important? And why does it accelerate everything? Because instead of towards the goal, instead of operating out of scarcity, you're actually going to operate out of abundance because you already have the goal. And this is how we hack reality or trick the universe and collapse timelines. Because if the universe is a mirror and a magnifier. You have the clear thought of 100K per month, let's say, or your desired income, whatever it is, right? That you already know is possible to be done. You already feel the emotions associated with having that goal accomplished. You have the conviction of it already being materialized, and you take the actions as if it's already materialized. This is how we trick the universe to collapse timelines and bring it into our physical reality. And it's important to understand these actions. It matters more, all of this, taking actions from the correct signals, magnets, lock-in, than just purely acceleration. Because as you have understood with the analogy of the car, it doesn't matter if you don't have any engine, or if you don't have the correct fuel, or if the car is not the good one, right? It's extremely important. And so you see, this is what 90% of people are doing wrong, and this is why it takes them decades and decades and decades, because they take massive action that over time creates convictions in incompetence, which then they start to feel more confident about themselves, and then the signal materializes. This is 90% of the people. They only focus on acceleration. And then you have, let's say, the 10% here that focus on manifesting purely with thoughts and emotions. But again, you are only having 50% of the entire hacking. And then you have the 1%, or even less than that, really is esoteric knowledge, but let's say 1% that uses all of that. Why is it important to first fix the signal, the magnet, the lock-in before the acceleration? Is because the universe and life is holographic. Let me explain. Every single input, whether it's mental, emotional, spiritual, or physical, have a ripple effect in the fabric of reality. Every single input compounds over time. And that stacks up for the universe to give it back to you in a form that you didn't even expect. Which is why many of my clients, the majority of them, when they do exactly what I'm telling them in the mentorship in terms of the bettering their thoughts pattern, that we change their subconscious mind and we rewire their thinking paradigms. We change the emotions, the feeling, the happiness. We change their belief systems, and then they take action. They already, with those three, they already start to become lucky, okay? Because at the end of the day, you may do all of this, but the universe has, or your soul has a better path for you. And it gives it to you in a different way, in something that you didn't expect. Which is why it's extremely important to stay open-minded, right? This goal, don't be too attached on the how. Yes, take actions that naturally come intuitively after you've done all of this, and that you think would be the shortest path to your success. But don't constrain the universe, or don't constrain your soul in one way. That's linear thinking. And you cannot explore the magic of life and the magic of metaphysics and esotericism and how the universe truly works if you only think this is the way, this is only going to be the way. I'm going to give you 2 or 3 examples. I have one of my students, he did all of this, okay? And his goal, I don't remember exactly his goal, but he started to close in a different manner of what he initially thought in terms of his actions. He closed 107K in 3 weeks. And then you have another student of mine. He did all of this, and because his vibration rose so much, he got this natural ecstasy of life, which naturally vibrated and was contagious to all the other people around him. And therefore, he was able to attract better opportunities, better customers, and make a triple his sales simply with not changing necessarily the actions, but supercharging the actions with the signal, the magnet, and the lock-in / thoughts, emotions, and his convictions and faith. Okay, these 4 things are the holy tetraticity, the 4 quantum mechanisms that hack reality and collapse timelines. This is the signal. This is saying to the universe, this is what I want. This is how you reel it in. This is how you reel it in on a consistent period of time, meaning that you lock it in with lock, basically. And this is how you accelerate and you collapse timelines. Don't make the mistakes of most spiritual people that only focus on the signal and the magnet. And they don't really truly believe in the conviction. Like for instance, let's say one day I'm like, oh yeah, I want to do this. I feel rich. And then the other day like, oh, I'm such a loser. No, that means you don't have convictions of it already happening. And the best way for you to continuously have that conviction is to obviously take the actions every single day, because stress comes from not doing the things that you know you should be doing. And doubts comes from the things that you are not doing that you should be doing. If you do everything correctly every single day and you feel productive, you're not gonna feel any doubt. It's because you're procrastinating on the actions that you know you should be taking that you feel doubt, you feel stressed, and therefore that has a ripple effect, a negative ripple effect on all of the 3 other quantum mechanisms. As a conclusion, life is holographic. Every single input, whether it's mental, emotional, spiritual, or physical, has a ripple effect in the field, the quantum field of probabilities, which is why it's extremely important for you to do everything correctly. Every single day, visualize, focus on the goal, feel the emotions as if it's already done, be convinced it's already happening, and act from the place, from the goal, meaning act from abundance, as if you're already reaching that goal, for instance. Your vibration is going to be completely different and it's going to supercharge the actions, allowing you to get the results faster. This is how you hack reality. This is how you collapse timelines. And if you look at your life, usually one of those was missing.